Welcome. Welcome to the Glow Era Reading Circle Week 2, where we continue to unpack this fully loaded, scrumptious read by Grede. Start with yourself. Hello. Today I decided at the very last minute that we were not going to record this in studio. I wanted to record this in the bedroom. The bedroom where you connect to the truest part of yourself, and where you get to see yourself in terms of how big you are dreaming or how small you've allowed life to convince you that you are. Where your own subconscious is either dishing you the beautiful dreams that come to leave you elevated and inspired in the morning, or the nightmares of all the things you don't want to address about your life, your habits, your discipline. The bedroom is the most important location for us to have this transformational conversation on vision. This is chapter 1. We are talking about vision. And if you remember, in the 3rd episode of the Glow Era podcast, where our work is fully dedicated to connecting you, your inner vision, to your outer life, connecting you to the power of your vision through transformational work and storytelling and groundbreaking insights and tools that leave you feeling unstoppable so that you can go out in the world and glow, because your glow is your power. Darlings, let's begin. So the bedroom is the perfect conversation to even start what Grede has put under part 1, which is you can't be what you can't see. This chapter I love so much because she talks about the vision that has guided her life throughout. She opens the chapter with a really powerful moment where she's holding her son, and her husband Jens is watching her be so emotional as she is observing a reality of a dream that she had been sketching since she was a child. And he saw how emotional she was, and he was like, beautiful, right? Because he's thinking it's because she's holding her baby and she's having like a moment, and she's like, yeah, but no, this is beautiful because I have scribbled this very moment. I have written this vision down. I've illustrated this moment so many times as a child, and I'm just in awe that it has manifested. That's how she opens the book, and I love it so much because the reason I embody the personality of dream is because I know the wounded version of me. I know the little Mpumi inside who still doesn't quite understand the power of her light, the value of her voice, who does things that are really not smart when she's afraid, who gives away her power, who allows herself to get played several times, because it's just still hard for her to learn some lessons. And so dream allows for me to immerse myself in my dream reality. It's literally a kind of it is an immersive therapy. But what's the word? Delusion that a lot of people use. They say you'll need the delusion. You know, Rihanna likes to say, fake it till you make it, sis, right? It's believing and tapping into that higher version of yourself. While I go to therapy, while I hold my own inner child's little hand and I'm like, no girl, that's not the way to go. While I have those important conversations to say, are you feeling bad that you gave your power away? Are you feeling sad that you allowed yourself to get played? Because they played in your face. They played with your body. They played with your feelings. They played with your future. And it hurts, doesn't it? It hurts to see yourself get treated like an insignificant, small, meaningless life form by somebody who you thought loved you. It hurts, doesn't it? And I say these things to myself so that I can sit in the mess that I allow myself to be a part of when I give away my power, when I allow myself to play myself. Because at the end of the day, for as long as little old me, little old you can sit and blame ABC for 1, 2, 3, you're still in the game. You're still in the matrix. You're still pointing fingers and not taking full responsibility of your life. You are not starting with yourself. And so dream, my higher self, my higher version, my vision can hold my lower self who has been living life in a belief of low self-worth and low self-esteem and say, come on, sweetie, it's okay, hold my hand, you're not alone, you can do hard things. You're gonna have to learn to love yourself without them, because you were supposed to love yourself in the first place. When they found you and met you, they saw the broken parts of you and they knew exactly how they could exploit that. And they did it successfully. And we could sit here and sulk all day, but that's not going to do anything for us now, is it? Because you are beautiful, kind, blessed, smart, gifted girl who forgot who she was, who forgot what she was, and who forgot whose she was, right? And it hurts, doesn't it? Yeah. So you have an awareness. We spoke about this in episode 3. That's the ARRVVA method of transformation. We have awareness. So you are aware that this is where you are in your life experience, that this is the circling of those same lessons, right? And some of us actually commented on last week's video saying, you know, I'm in the same place and I'm picking myself up. And I was saying there's nothing to apologize for. As long as you are aware, that's the turnkey. Step 1, awareness. Step 2, regulate. Take deep breaths. Sit in the truth of reality so that we can get to the vision. But first, in order to operate as dream, I need to know the truth of who I am as Mpumi. Right? You're only as strong as your weakest link. Mpumi's not strong. Mpumi's not weak. She's strong. But she has blind spots because that's what trauma does, right? And so in order to not allow the shutdown, you've got to reach higher. You've got to have a vision, which then cues in the third step, which is reframe. Why is this happening for me? Or in the words of Mama O, what is this here to teach me? Oops, I'm still giving my power away. Oops, I'm still trading my inner self-worth for approval in exchange for love. Oops, I'm still avoiding the responsibility of my life and handing over the creative power to someone else because it's easier to slay and live in aesthetic and be the girl that all the other girls look at and think, wow, how amazing, look at what she's wearing, look at what she's doing. It's easier to be that, to be a costume version of myself, to posturize and pretend. It's much easier to be an avatar than to be the real girl who lays asleep at night on a wet pillow, crying because she knows how small she has become in her own life and vision. That's why we're in the bedroom. Step 4 of ARRVVA becomes voice. Because once you have reframed, oh, this is here to show me these things, you use the power of your voice and you speak to yourself. And you fetch yourself from all those places and you say, you know what? You may feel broken. You may feel lost and small. You may have given away your power. You may have acted less than yourself. You may have been out of character, but you are still worthy of a good life. You may have known better, but didn't do better, but you are still worthy of your dream. You may have been lost, but you are still worthy of being found. And you start speaking life. I wake up and I speak life and I say, I am flourishing harmoniously in my glow era, living my dream. Because I don't care how low this life tries to drag me, how low my own undisciplinedness, my unstructuredness, my own lack of good habits can take me. Once I wake up and when I have resources, I'm able to tap back into my natural light, which we in this community call the glow, which is your power, darling. You are unstoppable. Without the expensive brands, you don't need that. Without the things that we feel like we need, we can have fun. Of course, we love makeup, we love all the pretty things, but your glow is what comes from within. The fifth one is vision. In my framework, we talked about this in episode 3. Vision. Vision is a very spiritual element. Because as Emma Grede says here, you can't be what you can't see, by Miriam Wright Edelman. Because in order to truly tap into a vision, you need to be able to see it. But if you want to tap into your spiritual mind, you must speak it. You have to first speak what you want to see. Wisdom says, I project into this world what I elicit out of it. We spoke about this. We spoke about how this dimension of reality is an after effect of the inner reality. Vision. Let's get into it. And so I want you to get into a habit of speaking your vision so that it can appear in your mind's eye. Because once you see it, then you start to attract it. So like I said, our girl Emma Grede has this revelatory moment in the opening. And I'm going to keep this episode short, by the way, because a girl is busy transforming her life. Busy! I'm having so much fun. I don't know if you guys can tell, but I feel like after all the crying and the tears from whatever life stage that this finds you in, you deserve to tap into your creative, glamorous, playful, healing, health-filled version of yourself that has fun. You gotta have fun. You gotta look good. You gotta smell good. You gotta be good. You gotta do good. But be a bad girl. Don't ever stop being a bad girl. Be a bad girl like me. So she has this moment where she's finding herself in the vision she drew, and it's emotional, and she literally sets us up for this knowing, this reckoning of how you creating something is calling it into reality. And there are certain principles, which is why I'm excited for us to have this conversation. There are certain principles and values that allow that vision to come into life faster. There are certain things that you have to do, and we will unpack that, right? She opens up with that vision, and she quickly goes into her childhood. She speaks about how being shaped by the culture of her early life put her ahead of the game, right? Because she had to, remember, raise her sisters. She was an overparentified child. She grew up in East London in the streets, like I grew up in Rosettenville, where there's prostitution, gangsterism, all the things that come with growing up in a culture like that. And life is not easy. But then it puts you ahead of the game. Why? Because you learn the skill sets that become your distinguishing factors. That's why you have to stay true to who you are. That's why you have to know who you are, even when you get lost, because you also have these assets, right? Yes, there's education, but education is a formal way of schooling, of learning. There's also street education, there's life education. And so this actually reminds me of all those times when we were growing up in the United States, and we'd be so inspired by people who've made it, guys, millionaires, billionaires, living their lives, looking good, smelling good, like all the things. And we would say, how do we do it? And they'd say, you already are it. You already are everything you dream of. And we just wouldn't understand. I wouldn't understand, because I was seeing the smaller version. I was operating from my lower self-worth, my lower self-esteem. And I didn't understand that my high self-worth is just a flip of that coin, right? The same skills that you use to work against you are the very same skills that you use to work for you. And that's why you're in this group, because you know what? You want to learn what those skills are. And I'm your dream. I'm here to make it come true. Hey, see what I did there? By the way, guys, I need you to, let me stop saying guys. I say guys a lot, hey? And I'm working on my femininity. I'm so sorry, queens. Please excuse me. Please forgive me. That's why I say, my loves, my hands, my darling, my dreamers, my fellow sisters, boys and girls, please put your lessons in the comments so that others can learn from your journey. please, because you already are that version of yourself. And so she speaks about simple things like making promises that you can keep, looking people in the eye, simple practices that were like, your word is your bond. Those are things that worked later on for her in her life. She always had a vision for herself, even while growing up, where she would cut up pages in Vogue magazines and fill up scrapbook after scrapbook, dreaming about a different life. And she's like, I couldn't see it around me, but I knew it was out there. Love that. That's on page 5. Love that down, honey. Yes, I know so much about my dream and how real it is that I call myself dream, because I'm calling it in. And you know you have a dream inside of you. You have a dream version. It's not like a papi jingam, but we all know she's in there. And she's gonna require your courage. She's gonna require everything you got to pull her out and make her rich. She saw it in her mind's eye. And remember, how do we put those visions in our mind's eye? By speaking. Why? Because scriptures say, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Words create worlds. Speak the vision so you can see it, and then once you see it, it becomes your North Star. The 6th stage of this framework that I designed, called the ARRVVA framework, is authorship. If you're really smart, you will take what you see and you will write it down. You will turn it into something that works in your favor. Be it a podcast, be it a newsletter, be it a novel, because now you're moving, you're going from the spiritual, intellectual download and you're coming into the physical realm with new value. That's how you make whatever is happening in here, in the woo-woo, into chung chung. That's how you do it. And so she says she simply knew, even though she didn't know how she would achieve her dreams, that she would figure it out. From a young age, I understood that my dreams would require work. And she did a paper route, right? We learn in page 6 that she had a paper route delivering newspapers. And she really loved this because it gave her a morning routine. When you wake up from bed, what is the first thing you do? You know, in my best years, when I lived in Los Angeles, my habits were on point. Truly, I would wake up at 4:30 in the morning. I was very spiritual, and my masters had taught me the very first thing you must avoid doing is touching your phone. Because when you wake up in the morning and the first thing you open is your phone, your whole consciousness has been shaped by whatever is on that blue screen. Because those early mornings are so important that you are meant to go within yourself and envision, pull from your own creative source what you want this experience to be. That is how powerful you are. That is how powerful we are. And so she says that morning routine exposes her to the importance of discipline. She also sees other people who wake up like a meditation, and she can see them in their kitchen as she's driving down the paper route. She can see them quietly reading the newspapers, and she could see that people who are successful have a system, they have a culture, because success leaves clues. And she says she started buying her own newspaper to gather up information about the world that she was dreaming on and to become more educated. Even if she wasn't living in that vision, she could learn about it. A lot of us wallow in our misery, guys. Trust me, if you knew the things that were happening in my life, I'm so sorry you missed the old messy version of me, because honey, you would be getting a daily tata of the latest daily sanist of Izindaba. The things I'm living through, Jesus Christ. But I'm humbled. Why? Because other people are living through things. Everybody is working through things, but we can't wallow in it. Train your mind to leave the negative space and check into the positive aspect of life. And remember that anything is possible. It's about how you discipline yourself. I really love page 6 because she talks about those early mornings. She talks about the lessons that she learned around morning routine and getting information on the world, as well as, learning about her dream world. And she held multiple jobs because she knew she had a vision. She knew that she didn't belong in the place that life had put her, and she was willing to do anything and everything to make it a reality. She made sandwiches. She sold knockoff brand clothes. She did the paper route. She did everything. And that inspires me because she says in every one of these gigs, she did impeccable work. I love it. Sometimes we forget, guys, that any opportunity you have is an opportunity, and it's important to leave your mark in that space by doing it as excellently as you possibly can. And so as she continues, she talks about how, you know, she started fashion school and she knew that she needed to hedge her bets. So her family had taught her that you can't really rely on a consistent flow of cash, and that she needed to hedge her bets, do something bigger. That's how she ended up in fashion school. And she didn't stay long like me. I did fashion school and I couldn't stay long. I actually had a really great start to my fashion school journey. I was at the top of my fashion class. But as usual, I was living a very toxic life in my private life. And there was a moment where this is a confession. There was a moment where I went back to get my patterns after a year. My patterns had been thrown away and I was entering a competition, and I was in a very tight financial space. I was really desperate and there wasn't anyone really there to really help me. And I remember the one person who was on their way out was like, oh, you should check in that corner. And I remember going to a corner, grabbing a pack of patterns, not really qualifying if do these belong to someone. Is this the corner where the old stuff is? I just assumed, because also the structure of the classroom had changed, I sort of assumed that, okay, this is what they meant. Although if I'm honest, there was a part of me that's like, I should verify this. My instinct was like, no, verify, make sure that this is where you were sent. But I was rushing for a flight. I needed to design, which I never ended up doing anyways because of what unfolded. But I needed to design, and I had all these ideas since before I was even first in my class. I always loved fashion. I always loved sketching. And I was running to catch a flight to come back to Joburg because this was happening in Cape Town. And I remember on my way down past the reception, the lady who was at reception, I remember peeking over at her, also wanting to check, was this the right? But she was deep in the middle of a conversation, and I peeked and I was like, I gotta go. So I left, only to find out the next day that I had taken another student's patterns. I still have so much shame about that. I apologized to the girl. She was a senior. That was her final project. I shipped it back to Joburg. It cost me about 1,800 on DHL overnight, which I fully deserved because I should have listened to my instinct. I hated how it looked. It changed the relationship I had with the school till this day. They were willing to give me a partial scholarship and I lost that, because that's what I do when I am in toxic binds. I don't think rationally. I'm rushing, I'm scared, I'm on survival, and excuse my French, I fuck up. And so I've had to parent that version of myself, right? Because I have a vision for who I am, who I want to be. And I don't want to be somebody who's known for taking things that don't belong to them. I don't want to be somebody who is known for not respecting other people's work. Until this day, I can feel it right now. I have so much shame about what I did. I apologized to that girl in writing. She said that she had forgiven me, but till this day, I'm still working on forgiving myself. So I share that story because the Emma Grede shares a similar journey, not taking from others, but that she wasn't able to stay in fashion school as long because she needed to basically find her center. She was already balancing so much work and opportunity, and that fashion school just wasn't allowing her to thrive the way that her personal life was, the distance. She had to eventually drop out, and she started taking these apprenticeships in fashion. And that's why I resonate, because she's like, she loved working with creatives, and that was my journey as well. I'll always be a fashion girly, and for my own dignity, I refused to enter a competition because now I knew that they'd be that speculation of, is it the pattern she stole? I mean, once I knew they belonged to somebody, I did nothing but ship them immediately. Somebody who was still in the school. I thought that that corner was all the patterns that had nobody claiming them. That, you know, when that instructor was like, just check in there, over there, you know, I thought, oh, okay, this is where the things that I just, you know, but I should have known because I had a feeling, and that's why I hold myself responsible for it. But I always loved fashion. I always loved the world of fashion, and that's where Emma Grede found her light. That's where Emma Grede found her spark, because she says that her turning point is when she landed in a fashion show production company that she stayed in for 6 years. She said she got exposure to designers, the best designers in London, like Alexandra McQueen, Matthew Williamson, Vivienne Westwood, and she saw how they realized their vision every year. And she saw how she says that even though the environment was very toxic, honestly, I can also say from the place in my life that has taught me the most about the power of my vision, the power of my light, why I should take responsibility of my life, was so toxic. But I had this love and hate relationship with it, because it also gave me the opportunity to be able to refine the things that I love in life and create, because I didn't have to take responsibility of that other part of my life. And so she talks about how as she was studying fashion in this very like toxic environment, she started to see how on page 9, I couldn't understand why there seemed to be no money in any of it for the creative voices. The economics made no sense as I watched young talented designers go up and down producing their shows completely disconnected from their own businesses. You know, and she says ultimately she found this production company she had been with to be incredibly toxic. I keep glancing at my tea, guys, please forgive me. I'm thirsty. Not in that way, but yeah. She found it to be toxic, but also that she learned the best lessons of her life there. And she speaks on the importance of doing the unglamorous work and time. Some of us are not willing, guys, to start where we are. In order to start with yourself, in order to tap into your vision truly, you need to be willing to start where you are. Start where you are in order to get to the vision, right? Learn from the low points that you're at. Learn from the valleys as you work yourself up to the mountaintops of life. And here are the things that she says she learned while she was there. She says, while I was there, I learned how to budget, I learned how to be organized, I learned how designers move from concept to collection. The hard reality that these shows were a terrible waste of money for most, and that they had no clue how to transition, here's the key, their artistic vision into retailer orders that would ensure their labels could thrive. It was only ever about creating a show and corresponding press books. There was so much ego attached to the artistry that nobody was talking about the merchandising plan or the ROI, the return on investment you'd need to justify spending that much money. And so ultimately this space, this chasm between vision and reality became her bridge to build. And I will leave you lingering right there, because that is how 6 years in, she ended up bringing millions of pounds for the company, because she was starting to see a gap of how she could help individuals get closer in connecting their inner vision to their outer reality. And ladies and gentlemen, honestly, that is something I have observed as a communication strategist. I was saying to a fellow friend who is an influencer in the space that I am now, stretching, creating content. And I was saying to her, as a strategist, I have clients. If you check our website at www.flourishharmony.com, you see that we have a creative studio that is all about the power of storytelling, healing arts, branding, social media. We work from, helping individuals improve their public speaking and confidence, helping them tailor their keynote addresses, all the way through to how they brand their businesses. I don't really talk about this because I like to keep the professional aspect of my life different and separate from my social persona. But I'm seeing that a lot of us in the influence space are again lost in the aesthetic and the creative aspect and don't understand how to link that to the business aspect of what we're doing. You need to run the business of being you. You're worthy of stepping into the fullness of both those worlds. And my dream is for you as a woman, as a sister, as a mover and shaker, as a powerhouse, to know your vision, to know thyself. So that basically wraps it up. This is the last page of the vision. If you have the book, the vision chapter, she asks you several questions that I will be adding in the Glow Era reading circle so that you all can also reflect on. Really powerful questions that help you look back on the goals you didn't achieve in the past year and what were the main reasons you weren't getting there, so on and so forth. So definitely click on the URL that will be put put in the description of this on this video in YouTube. Join our Glow Era reading circle. That's where you'll be able to get all these resources. And so yeah, that closes the review for this week, is the power of vision. I hope that wherever you are reminded that your next era is living within you, waiting to be seen in awareness, waiting to be regulated, waiting to be expressed, waiting to be spoken and seen and authorized. You have the power to take your life to the next level. That's it, ladies and gentlemen who may be in the crowd. That is my contribution to your transformation journey this week. I hope that you are left inspired and uplifted. I'm your girl Dream, formerly known as Mpumi Nobiva, and I am an international speaker and communication strategist by profession, artist by experimentation. If you ever need assistance around frameworks that help you move to the next level of your transformation journey, please don't hesitate to reach out. You can definitely DM us, you can comment in the section below, and we will reach out to you. You can visit flourishharmony.com, and honestly, let's take your life to the next level. Whatever you do, wherever you go, do not give up on yourself. Do not slow down, because no matter what, no matter who, no matter why, your glow is your power. I will see you on the next episode of the Reading Circle. Glow, glow, glow. Kusesemnandi namanje tsawo. So papi, adios.